hey, you forgot to breathe for the last 2 hours. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right.
Anyway, yeah, it's good to meet you. Obviously, yeah, you saw my post, and I can talk a bit about myself, or I'd love to learn a bit more about you as well.
I know everything about you, Six. I've been spying on you. You're all over the internet, and you work with Matt. Matt is a very close friend, so I've been in your
Which
orbit for
Matt?
a long time.
Matt Billman?
Matt Billman from Netlify.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I've always been, I am the silent lurker of the net, of all this network. I've been around for a long time, but I quit social media about 8 years ago. I just got tired in 2012, 2013, and I quit everything. And then I built my network offline. I lived in San Francisco for a long time, and I organized events. So I kind of compensated that, and I never really needed the network. But now that that COVID hit, I've been isolated. And I have a startup now. So yeah, I just opened my Twitter account again last week, and I've been tweeting for the first time in 8 years, and it's weird. I have to tell you, it's very strange.
So yeah, what got you interested in this problem in the first place? Maybe describe the problem as well.
Yeah. So I have a startup, and we're working on a pure code programming platform. We're working on a pure code programming platform for TypeScript, but initially we started with something more general. So I want to start with the concrete thing, like what we're doing, and then we can talk about the story. So if you don't mind, I want to share my screen.
Yeah, please
briefly.
Go ahead.
It's just to give people a visual, because
your site's not loading for me, so my internet has some weird block.
Yeah, I added a filter. If it's Sean, fail, to make it more fun today. So this is lambdragon.com. This is our little mascot and our logo. And what we're building is this guy. So we're building a unified platform for TypeScript that combines cloud components, all of the tooling. So we're rewriting every single layer, and then frameworks. That doesn't mean that you can't use the frameworks you love now. That there are ways of combining both things. But we're also taking care of building frameworks that are optimized to work with everything else. So that's what we're doing. We've been working on this actually for 3 years already, but it's been quite a journey. So I'll jump to the past. So just to give you an idea, this is like 2 or 3 years old. And if you read this now, if you read this page right now, it's very relevant. But if you read this 3 years ago, people would think, they wouldn't know what to make of it. Like, Aldo, you're the only person talking about this. Sounds crazy. This is before Pulumi started, pushing hard with Pulumi Cloud, which I think is kind of the main mainstream attempt at this, right? But now we have so many things that are happening, and I think, Sean, I was telling you in my comment that your blog post masterfully put everything together, and I think we needed that. I really appreciate it. I am grateful, and I know that others in the space are grateful as well, because I mean, you're a good communicator. You kept it at a level that people get engaged, and they kind of, you break down the problem and you tell it like a story. So I think it's a good start. I think also with the release of Serverless Cloud, right? We're seeing the beginning of a movement that many people have attempted before. So I invite you, Sean, to read this if you want. You're gonna laugh because it's like, yeah, this is what everybody's trying to do. But anyway, so this is where we started. And we've been through a long journey, and now we're building this. And currently, if you go to lambdragon.com, let me zoom out. I just zoomed in for dramatic effect. Actually, that doesn't work. Let's just open a new one. Oh, what did I do here with the zoom? Let's just go to lambdragon.com and fresh new browser window. Maybe that works. No, it doesn't. Okay, there, reset.
There you go.
There you go. So if you go to lambdragon.com now, you can join the waitlist. We're going to be releasing parts of the whole platform because it's pretty ambitious. Like this thing covers what maybe 18 different startups are doing right now. We're trying to bring it all together. So now I'm going to tell you kind of what, there's a long story, but as most investors tell me, I don't care about your story. Just tell me, fast forward to now and tell me what's going on right now. So I'll tell you what's going on right now. We have a little story here because I've been trying to find the narrative, but the main idea is this: like, over the last two years or so, things have gotten really bad for programmers, for the developers. for some reason, people are spending more time talking about build tools than ever before. I mean, I'm an old school programmer. I've been around for 20 years, and I don't remember a time where you were switching build tools or compilers or languages or testing frameworks every other week. It's only happening now, right? Before you used to settle on a stack and you would stay there, but now we have this constant churn, right? And if you look at what the consequence of this is that our productivity is dropping, right? The productivity of everybody is just going down the drain. And you have different startups that are appearing to solve each of the problems. So we see build speeds that are going down. We have problems with dependency management. We have different frameworks that are trying to solve specific problems. We have different repository layouts and organization strategies, blah, blah, blah. So you can, if you look at this from above, you're going to see that there are different pockets of issues, right, that are appearing. And then you have startups that are starting to solve each of these. But I believe that there is an underlying cause. Like if we keep operating at the symptoms issue, we're not necessarily going to find a solution. I think what we need to do is try to understand if there was a major change, maybe that brought about this state, right? And I might be wrong, I might be right, but I strongly believe what I'm about to tell you. So over the last 2-3 years, the size of code bases has exploded for various reasons, right? So we have microservices, which tell you instead of having like one project with 6 services, split it up into different projects, maybe different languages. And if you do that, you're going to have more scalability. You're going to be able to evolve them. There's decoupling. So there are some benefits there. But in chasing those benefits, you end up adding, to your code base. It grows. Then you have, the movement to full stack, where one team, one developer is now expected to take care of everything, every layer. Then you have multiple runtimes, multiple platforms, right? So it's not just the web app. Now you have CLIs, you have mobile apps, you have more and more channels, right? Then you have APIs, which means that it's no longer a single backend. You have a whole bunch of different backends, and you can swap parts. And at the very end of this list, right, you have monorepos. This idea that now it's perfectly fine to add everything to one single repo, which I actually agree. I like the benefits that we get from that, right? It removes a lot of the barriers for collaboration. It makes it easy to keep track of things, to know where to go. So you remove artificial boundaries, and I like it. But the result of this is that our repositories are huge now, right? Now, when you add things to a repository, there comes a point where the complexity just explodes. And the reason for this is pretty simple, right? Is that the relationship between the things that you add matters. So, for example, you add TypeScript, and then and if you add TypeScript and it's kind of okay, you add a testing framework. Well, now you need to make the testing framework work with TypeScript as well. And then you add a coverage tool, and then you add a storybook, and each of these things affects each other, right? So everything you add has like a network effect, and it ends up affecting everything else. So there's an exponential growth. And anything that has an exponential growth or can be observed as a kind of have some exponential trend, at some point will just explode, right? It will go to a point that's unmanageable. And I think that that's what we're seeing now. So I'm trying to find, an underlying trend that helps us explain this, because if we find that trend, then we kind of try to attack it at the root cause, at the root level. So let's assume that I'm right, like that the problem is the complexity is just out of control because the repositories are so big because of all these new responsibilities. What options do we have? So one option is to say, well, let's keep attacking the symptoms, right? Let's create new build tools with more caching. Let's consolidate the tool chains, like what Rom is doing. Let's create, what Temporal is also doing, like create a runtime that removes some of the concerns and abstracts them from you. And all these things are fine, but there's another approach too, where you could say, let's try to reduce complexity so it doesn't accumulate. And obviously, there's a limit, right? You won't be able. So, oh, I have all these beautiful drawings too. So this is what we're seeing now, right? We're seeing a whole bunch of tools that are appearing: build caching, works with automation, tool chains, compilers. We're rewriting everything in Go and Rust. But what these are doing is attack each of the individual symptoms, right? One by one, and it's fine. I mean, I love adding ES build to a project and just seeing it, blaze through, and it's done in 5 seconds. But it doesn't really solve the problem, because later on I changed the testing framework, and now I have to go through a whole weekend of figuring out how to configure that, right? So I'm also buying myself more trouble, and this leads to this state, which is where we are right now, right? we're changing and trying out new tools, and we're trying to achieve some sense of durable productivity, right? But it's very unstable. Like it just gets like shot out of the water immediately as soon as a new requirement appears. So the only theoretical answer, I'm talking like on a theoretical level here. That probably you can bring this down in multiple ways, but the main idea is, if complexity is the problem, then let's use technology that at its core can handle complexity much better, so that you can add more things without getting to this point where it just goes away. And if you can flatten this a little bit, right, then you maybe can find a sweet spot there. I'm not saying that there's a way to completely eliminate it. You can just slow it down. So that's kind of the problem statement, and kind of what we're trying to do with Lambdragon is we're trying to create a platform where, because it has infrastructure as code or infrastructure from code, because it has its own integrated toolchain, because it has frameworks, because everything has been tested from the final product all the way down to the compiler, and then we have taken care of CI and everything. The result is that you can shrink your code base. You can just throw away so many things. And we actually, even in the versions that we have now, I've run tests on. I rewrote like the Babel monorepo. I wrote the Red Bull monorepo. I've been rewriting a few things just to see how far I can go. And I can easily remove like 30% of the incidental code there. A lot of configuration goes away. And I know that I'm talking the abstract now, but if you want to learn more, you're going to have to wait until we release. But that's what we're working on. Yeah. And I'm done with this part. Like now I want to. I see the floor. The other floor. Sean.
Wait, so are you part of the Redwood team? I see you wearing a shirt.
Yeah. I am. I love these guys. They've been.
Was this developed? Like, I like to understand origin story and motivation. Like, was this developed as part of your work on Redwood, or is it something else?
It has been influenced by the problems that the Redwood team has been having internally. More like it, right? So it's a considerable code base. So it's a average to large monorepo with high complexity. So I've learned a lot by being part of the team. But this started way earlier. I started this. I was the R&D kind of the main architect, main guy at MuleSoft back in the day. So I was building protocols, and before that I was building databases, and I've always been in research. Like that's my hat. I'm a researcher. I have crazy ideas, and then I study everything that's available. I find the right people, and then end up building, on far horizons kind of product strategy. And when I left MuleSoft, I was in a good spot. We IPO'd. I had a cushion. I had some credibility because I've been through that. And so I used it to build a research lab at the time. And initially, this is 2017. And initially, we focused on several problems. I didn't know which one. So I focused on several. I focused on making fully persistent runtimes, which is very related to what you're doing now, Temporal. So I had a lot of time there. It's a little more broad in the sense that I think Temporal is focused on workflows now. And I know that you guys have plans to go beyond that. But what I was doing is workflows and also transparent persistency. So being able to infer the best strategy to persist data, whether it was a relational database or it was a key value store, which indexes, and kind of adjusting time, the decision model, and also adding transactions to JavaScript. Then there were a lot of protocols, of API protocols that we explored. MuleSoft to a large extent became what it became because it was the protocol era, the API protocol era, and then we had GraphQL coming in, and you've seen it's created already one unicorn at least, right? So protocols are also a big thing. So we also explored protocols. And the third one was the craziest one, which was, let's build a programming language that has everything. So it was very much in line with Darklang, right? It's initially it was like a closure-based prototype because it's easy to do whatever you want there. But I managed to cover all what I thought were all of the requirements. But then I realized, there's no point in building another language because it's going to take 10 years if we're successful, right? For this to penetrate the market. It's not viable for a startup to do it. Maybe if I was at Microsoft Research, I could keep it as a pet project for a while. So then I switched, and we decided to try to do exactly what we were doing in this universal language, but with the most popular language at the time. And that started this. okay, how can we make it pure code? So just one file, you as a programmer, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Anything that can be inferred from your code will be inferred. Any extensions that we need to make to code in order to, restrictions or extensions in order to accommodate these issues, we're going to make them in a way that doesn't make it incompatible with everything else, right? And it's a big, I don't know if you've already had some experience here, but the Pulumi guys, they went pretty far here, adding, cross-user serialization and other stuff to JavaScript. And it's very complicated because when you try to take JavaScript and you try to make it do way more than it was originally intended for, like having in one file multiple runtimes, having different phases. There's the build phase, there's the runtime phase. Some of these things have stable identity over time. Others are, they change. Like, for example, if you have a database, the database is a stable identity. But if you have a Lambda, the identity of the Lambda, it's what it does, right? So you have all these concepts that start appearing in the language and they weren't considered. So we spent a long time there. And then now I think we have an opportunity. So we're actually raising a seed round now, more like pre-seed. Depends on the interest. Like, I mean, I think to a large part, thanks to you, we're like it got started.
It got started.
It's funny how things are.
What do you mean?
What your article was, I've been trying to get people to see what I'm seeing for a very long time. I've been struggling with that. And then I pointed them to your article and they were like, that's smart. I actually got some emails from people saying like, Aldo, this is what you were talking about. I'm like, yeah, that's it.
I think partially what I do is, I'm not as smart as a lot of the people actually working on the platform. And you need some people who are like, and I'm not saying this to be humble at all. You need some people who are like able to talk to the rest of the developer population, who may not have like the full understanding of what it is you're trying to do, but they get the spirit or the idea of it. And then they just like, hammer on that idea because that's about all the attention span that people have, at least at the beginning stages of something. So okay, this so Lambdragon is not ready for demo today, or
I can actually show you something private. I would love to, but right now I'm keeping some cards close to my chest because we really I've talked to everyone in the space and I've realized just how far ahead we are. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of the go-to-market strategy. It's like we've been working on a vision of the future, but with no clear bridge to the present for a long time. And now we have a few bridges, right? So we have the few innings, like going after integrated tool chains. We have an integrated tool chain. Or we can say, let's play the infrastructure as code, infrastructure from code game, or frameworks. So there are a bunch of them. So now we're racing around to kind of regroup, set like a strategy to figure out what we release first and how we talk about it. It's in the end we'll arrive at the same thing. The thing is, I'm doing this part for the first time. Like I design crazy things, and then there's a whole team that helps me do this, right? So now I need to build a team to do that. But I really want to show you stuff. I'm happy to show you.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, whatever you're comfortable sharing. I think it helps to really make it concrete. It seems like you're building sort of the whole world. And yes, obviously that's challenging. How much of this is open source? How much are you planning to?
We're going to open source most of it, except for the cloud components, obviously. Like there's a runtime as well. And then again, this is what we want to figure out in the next kind of
because like basically you have a proprietary development environment. Like you're kind of like
I'll show you something.
All right,
let's go for it. We have some time. Yeah, we have some time.
Yeah,
this is completely unscripted. I wasn't even prepared to show you anything. But,
no, because like obviously it's easy to agree on the problems, but
so the first
imagine
the first thing I want to show you, like, okay, this is what when you look at serverless cloud or some of the other projects that are appearing. I mean, the CDK, Pulumi Cloud, serverless cloud, they're all kind of hovering here. This is the cloud version, but this is the old one. This is like 3 years old. Like we've moved a long way from here. So here you have you can say, okay, I want to create a single page app, right? And you get this magic single page app, and then you have like it has a built-in React framework. You can add a web worker, right? So now you just say web worker, and this is a web worker, and then you can say I also want an Electron app, and you want to expose the main process. I don't know. Each of these things have changed over time. Like the APIs are much better now. But let's keep it simple. Let's just add a Lambda, right? So you have a Lambda here, and then you want to add a cron, like a scheduler, right? You can also add databases and CMSs and so on. And I, I'm close friends with Matt, so I've always tried to add something Netlify-ish. So we had like Netlify identity. So if you deploy to different things, so this is from before the CDK, right? The CDKs and Pulumi, they have kind of brought more of these ideas. But the difference with this one, between this one and the other ones, is that it also has the final products, right? So it's a mix between cloud and then the final products. So you have, you actually have frameworks. So I'm going to show you, and this one, again, like I haven't changed this code in a million years, so I don't even know if it's going to work. But I love doing stupid things online. Let's just go to temp and run this guy. Actually, I think I showed this exact demo to like Tom from GitHub on a bar like 2-3 years ago. Oh. And Tom has been supporting us. He's been amazing. He's helped us, weather all this period of we were early to the market, man. People tell you about that and you don't believe it, but when it happens, it's real. It's a real thing. It's real. Okay. So let's leave this guy running and let's go here, and I'm going to show you something else. I'm using this to build several projects. So one of the projects I'm building is the Redwood VS Code extension. So again, like going back to the diagram here, Lambdragon, I don't see what I'm typing. Sorry, I have the little zoom window here. Lambdragon. So going back to the diagram, right? We have cloud, the tools, and then also frameworks. So one of the frameworks is VS Code extensions, because we use it a lot. So I can also build VS Code extensions. So I've been using it to build my extension, obviously, but also other people's extensions. I tried to build a Netlify extension. Maybe we'll open source it at some point. Okay, this is. Give it a second. I'm pulling this from main, by the way. Like this is probably gonna explode. So the way Lambdragon works, I'm going to create a new file here, just so we start with a cleaner example, right? We're going to call this Sean.ts, right? So you can import stuff from Lambdragon, and this version has some stuff like, for example, VS Code extension. But let's create a CLI in this case. It's easier. Con CLI equal new CLI, and we need a, oh, sorry. Oh, wait, remember the command that we ran before? From the old version that was creating an Electron app.
And we created the Electron app, nice.
Yeah, with MPX, it already, it's like a quick start, you just say, give me all these features, and it creates, and it has a Lambda too. So it has a Node.js Lambda. I also have one that we have workflows as well. We have, I mean, we cannot compete with Temporal, but we can approximate. For some things we have long-running processes also. Okay. But what I wanted to show you here, so say you want to build a command, we're going to call it Sean Yelly. I don't know, Sean hello.
Okay.
And what else do I need? I need, wait, sorry. My computer is about to take off at this point. Oh, but by the way, this is not a fake background.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were.
This is real. This is where I am right now. So guys, if you wait for us, you're going to be here. We're in Oahu. We escaped during COVID.
Amazing.
So we're here. So we're going to say log Sean. Okay, so this is my very stupid CLI, and then I want to use it. And the fastest way to use it, I'm not going to have time to explain what I'm doing now, but I am using like, remember that this is pure code, so I don't actually need the command line even. I have like a way of using like a command line API from here. I want to try it out. So I want to open this command line tool in the VS Code terminal. Okay, let's do it. It's just easy to. There you go. Shani. Why did I write Shani? Okay, Shani, hello. Well, Sean. Okay, there you go. So, and then I can, of course, this is an API. So everything is code in Lambda, everything. The build tool, the deployment processes. It's similar to what Pulumi has been trying to do now. They've been going down and down and like until it's very meta. Like, okay, maybe I'm talking about things that are yet still not very popular, but they will be popular soon. So, by the way, this is you know, like you can run stuff here. You can say like function aloha, and let's return like foo, and I'm just going to. I want to show you so foo, and then I can also say like, you know what, I want to debug this stuff, and there you go. So I don't have time. We have very little time, right? But anyway, this is like a taste. There's so much here. It's a lot of work, and so every single piece of the stack has been rebuilt. So in order for us to be able to do what I'm showing you now, right? Like, what is this? This is build time. This is run time. This is dev time, right? And then I'm just I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit more. If you, in case you're not confused already, let me confuse you more. Let's just use macros. Okay. X9 is like the how do you say, like beta kind of namespace when I'm trying things. So I can also use macros here. Actually, I'm just going to use the aloha here, and it's going to work. Oh, actually, you're testing my creativity against very little time. I'm not very good at this. I'm just going to go for foo and par. Okay, so I'm calling a log. I'm putting here, but if I look at wait, sorry, I wanted to do this x9.preval. I know how to show you this. Import cause. Let's do something that's more relatable, you know.
Yeah.
And here I'm gonna say cause, and this is message. Cause.say. What's that? Yeah, message. It's gonna be Sean. Man, I cannot type your Sean rocks. And what else? Do I need something else? Doesn't like message. Text. There you go. Okay, so if I just try this out, it should say Sean rocks, right? Now let's say that you're bundling a web app, and you don't want to include cause, right? Because it would end up in the bundle. So what you can do is you can say, I'll just run this through a macro. Exactly. So we have a whole bunch of macros. So we kind of extended. And these macros are very tightly integrated with everything else. So, okay, it's working, but look at this. Do you see the arrow there? Right. So you can see what it expands to. So we also have like multi-phase programming, multi-stage programming, sorry, in JavaScript, and different kinds of macros. This is like a simple one, and I copied from Can't See Dots, right? I copied the name because I love it. It's easy. But we also have, you can create expressions, like this could be a class. This could be like a string that is a class. And you can also, they can also be typed. It can generate types for you. So we can create a macro that creates a client for database, for example. And these things are all necessary when if you increase the scope of what the platform should do to include, give me an ORM, give me this and that, right? You need to start fixing problems at the lowest level of the language. So we fix a lot of things in JavaScript. The dependency management is also something that we solved on our own. So there's like a completely new kind of tree shaker here. The dependency manager is also different because we have multiple runtimes in the same file, right? You can have Electron, you can have VS Code, you can have, and you have things that run now, things that run later. And sometimes the dependencies don't match, or sometimes the way you build them, if you have native modules and so on. So we also had to reinvent everything. So anyway, I know that I'm kind of confusing you, but that's what we're building now. And something happened here.
Oops.
Give me a sec. I hit the block button. Okay, I'm done. We don't have enough time to go through all this.
No. I feel like I wasn't rushing you at all. I was just.
But we have.
I just wanted to see.
Have like until like 10:30.
I just wanted
to
see.
I have more time, by the way.
I can go a bit further as well. I just need to go for lunch at some point, but I mean, it's very ambitious. I think it's needed, but also I've seen a few of these things struggle. What prior art do you think gives you confidence that this is the right approach?
Yes, because as you say, it's ambitious. We're basically setting an end state, right? Which is correct. Like the end state, eventually we will arrive at that. Because if you think about it from a thermodynamic point of view, right? And you try to make things easier and easier, because that's what startups are doing. What are they doing? All of these startups, just one layer of simplification. One, you keep going. Eventually we will stop. We will reach a point, like a maximum, right? That you can keep optimizing. And the only thing that is going to be fixed at that point is the language. So we're saying, okay, JavaScript and TypeScript, they are very popular. They keep growing. So eventually we'll arrive at this end state, right? The question is, from as a founder, as somebody who wants to build a business around this, hire a team, and then have penetration, is how do we create a roadmap where we can take part of all the different stages throughout the next 5 to 10 years that need to happen, so that this becomes the norm. So we're kind of working backwards from that ideal state, which we've had enough time to figure it out. I think that's my technical advantage, is that I'm probably the only guy who, for accidental reasons, almost spent so long like trying to figure all these problems, right? But so the question is, how can we walk back with this knowledge and then play for what's happening in the industry, become a contender in what's going on? So we could go as a tool chain, as an integrated tool chain, and we could say we are an alternative to ROM tools with this and this, slight differences, but that will allow us to become part of somebody else's like monorepo setup. We don't need to tell them. We can't tell people throw everything away. We could also say, oh, this is an infrastructure as code, infrastructure from code play, and that's kind of the conversations we're having now in this context, right? Like serverless.com release cloud, and I know that Pulum is going to make a move there too, and so that's another space where we could go. So yeah, I right now my plan is to raise money, bring back like a really good team, and then be very strategic about what industry are we going to play, or not industry. It's more like a space, right, or a movement. Which one at each period. But I'm very clear about where we have to go in the end. Remember that one of the things that we spend a long time, and my background is on data, is on runtimes and data. So in the end, I'm going to build a runtime, but it's not something that I can just jump. A runtime that has transactionality, has persistence, has everything solved, and kind of optimizes itself. And I think that's what everybody's mind is right now. I mean, you're in Temporal, so you guys are probably thinking about that. Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't have all the answers. I just know I think I have a clear idea of what the next step is, like the next year at least. Yeah. But dude, please ask me hard questions. I love that. Help me learn.
Well, I mean, yeah, you touched on the main thing that I'm wondering for you, right? All these other guys, they have some foothold that they're well known for, that that they can then expand. Like if you think about your circle, you have those 3 sections. You're unknown in all of them, right? And right. If you come along and say, okay, everything you're using sucks, use my thing, but you have to drop every tool you're using, including your dependency manager. It's a very big jump for people. Mm-hmm. So I think you're aware of this. I think you understand that you need to sort of find a way that doesn't compromise on your overall vision. And I don't know how to do that.
It's a really tough question. It has been the bane of my existence, because it's about playing to the audience, right? Playing to the market being in the moment in time, and instead of trying to jump 6 steps ahead, picking the one step that will get you closer.
Yeah, this is right? The reason.
But we. So I can tell you already, like I don't know how much of this I'll regret, because some of these things I want to keep close to my chest, because the space is heating up. But just so you know that we have an answer, I'll tell you something. So right now, we consider a bunch of options. I'll tell you 2 that I think are abstract enough. One of them is as a build tool. So, but a build tool with a different repository layout, right? Because we built everything, we can propose an alternative to monorepos. It's similar to somebody's running with a similar idea called unirepo, but they're trying to do it with this build. I mean, the idea is, if you have a tree shaker that's good enough, you can have multiple different products in the same source tree, right? Because then the tree shaker will just create the bundles that only touch what you need.
Yep.
And that's a great insight, right? But then if you really try to make a production, if you add complexity to this, if you add real life complexity, like dependencies that have that conflict with each other, or if you have if you need to swap out pieces of logic depending on runtimes, you need to control, like relying on ES build is not going to be enough. You need to have your own compiler. So we have something we call the slicer, which is a redesigned TypeScript compiler and bundler that has meta programming, that has tree shaking, and that also understands like these different runtimes and can handle, let's say, like it's similar to Rust configurations in a way, where you can have a project, but there are ways of telling it build this or don't build this, right? So we have something like that, like flags. So one of the things that we could release now is a tool to take. So if you have a large monorepo now and you're stuck and you're thinking of using something like, I don't know, turbo repo or switching to ROM tools or doing something because you are trying to gain some performance or remove some of the dependency errors, we offer you an alternative that's a little bit more radical, but that will solve all of these problems right away. So we have a market there, and I've been actually working on that. That's where that number for Redwood comes from. So that's one option. So we are going to we're going to resegment like the build tooling market and create a little alternative to the monorepo layout. So you can still use an X or turbo repo or whatever you want, but there's this other alternative which you might want to try. So that's one. And the other one is infrastructure as code. And it used to seem like it was impossible, right? I mean, when you think your competitor is AWS, but now Serverless Cloud launched, and they make sense for a lot of people. They make sense. They're talking about it. We already have most of that, so it's just a matter of getting the communication, the messaging right, and setting up the team, like transitioning from a research outfit to a proper company. And that's what this run is for. But I don't have all the answers, and I actually know that this is the challenging part. I think over time, I've managed to build a network of mentors and people that have been through this. So I trust that we will. I mean, I'm not gonna have to go through this on my own. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited, man. I'm really excited about this. To be honest.
That's awesome. Okay. Anything else that I can help, or you just wanted to talk it over? Like I feel like I haven't been.
Oh yes, I have. Dude, I have one. I have. Yeah, no, I have a major task role for you. So let's say that there's a new space that's about to be shaped. Okay, and we need to find a name. So you called it self-provision runtimes. I talked to Doug and he was calling it infrastructure from code. I talked to him yesterday at length about it, right? I've been talking to Ala Shiban from Cloud Compiler. There are a bunch of people, right, that are in this space, including me and you and others. You're at Temporal. You also have that role. You have a company behind you too. It's not just Sean the superstar, right? It's Sean with Temporal. So I think there's an opportunity to define this space, at least ideologically. The messaging is going to be important. Trying to explain to people like that there's an approach where you can leave many things unspecified. You don't need to configure. It will be inferred from code. So the name that I'm leaning towards, which is the name that is, I think, more correct, is pure code, because that's the name of the end state, right? But it's boring. The search space is terrible, and I knew you were going to make that face. I'm just telling you that we need to figure this out. So it's a challenge, right? I think infrastructure from code or infrastructure as code is too restrictive, and self-provision of runtimes as well, because it's not just about the runtimes. There's a lot more. It's about testing, security. It's about when you move to the application, when you start including application frameworks, it's about the application frameworks as well. It's about data. It's about caching. So I think what I wanted to propose is let's create a group, like a little, how can you call this? Like a conclave, I don't know, a group of minds, right, that are in this space, and we're all struggling with this. And let's just discuss and try to find a term. So a parallel that I like to bring into vision here, into view, is the Jamstack, right? So Netlify was a CDN before, and whenever they were pitching their platform, the way people perceive them was, you're just a CDN that's maybe easier for certain cases. But it wasn't until the Jamstack, right? Like the whole thing just took off. And if you look at the Jamstack space, it's full of other people now, including competitors like Vercel. So I feel like me and Lambdragon, Cloud Compiler, Serverless Cloud, we are all going to be competitors for sure in this space. To Temporal, maybe, but you guys have a completely different specialization that you can pursue forever, right? But you're also in the space in the sense that if we figure this out, it's going to help you create another vector, another like ideological movement that you can associate with.
For us, it's very clear. The category is workflow engines. And if you can convince people that they need a workflow engine, just like they need a search engine, just like they need an analytics database that you would not write yourself, then we're happy. So it's a much smaller problem than yours. The weird thing about what you're proposing is that you want to get in a room with your competitors and define the space. That's not how this is usually done.
No. I didn't mean I meant let's just talk about it. Let's have, for example, an open discussion.
Okay.
And brainstorm ideas.
Yeah.
It's not just them. There are more people that I've been talking to. Some investors that are also interested in jumping in.
Okay.
Because they see the trend. We just need a label. It would help. Maybe it's going to be a couple of labels. I don't know.
The thing. Well, so.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me or.
Hello. My microphone looks like it's working. My mic looks like.
I can't hear you, and I'm not sure if it's on my side. I don't think so. I'm going to turn off my headphones just in case.
Testing.
Can you hear me?
Hello. I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
What can I do?
Here. I don't know.
I don't know what to do.
Let me.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, you switched. Okay, so I wouldn't mind joining this. It seems like a, you can call it like a symposium or like a meet, like a, gathering or whatever. Like symposium is a very old school physics notion that you just get together and talk about like a topic, and then maybe it's like an unconference. An unconference is where like people like will propose topics and then they just go up. It's not like a very scheduled thing, but it's very more dynamic. And I'd be happy to take part in that. I'm not so optimistic that everyone will agree on what the term is, because what you think the term is depends on how you're going to tackle this. So serverless cloud, for example, will be very focused on just like their definition of what it means to provide all these infrastructure primitives, whereas they have no opinion whatsoever on your code extension, right? Which you're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's worthwhile having a meeting. I'm not sure what's going to come out of it.
Yeah, I wanted to pull the idea because you're the expert here. Like
I'm not the expert. I'm not the expert.
Well, relatively speaking, right now you're the expert in communication and movement. You understand how the developers react and adopt terms much better than I do. I've been looking. Nobody really knows how this works, to be honest. Like it's a mystery. Developers are cults, but I think it's worth trying to find a way to cut through the noise, because going back to the first thing that I brought up, this idea of complexity, I really think it's killing us. It's people are not having a good time. Becoming a developer now is really intimidating, because up front, like right off the bat, you have to make so many decisions about which tools to use, how to combine them, and you have no context. You don't know. But learning a programming language is still a safe space. It feels really nice, right? The programming language is a well-defined world. So I see, especially with people that are starting, I see that they are very disappointed when they go from, okay, I finished Codecademy or whatever it is, right? Now I want to build a real life thing, and then I'm like, I have bad news for you. Now this becomes, I don't know, more like astrology. It's impossible to know exactly what's going to work for you, and then everybody gives it. So trying to point out that we start by labeling the problem, and I came up with more people. We came up with this notion of hyper complexity, just to find like a sticky name. that right now we're seeing an epidemic of hypercomplexity. The definition is, is vague, but the idea is there's a point after which the amount of complexity completely paralyzes you. So we can't, as human beings, we can't really deal with infinite complexity. We have a limit. I can only remember, I don't know, 10 words in one go or something like that, right? So we need to acknowledge that first, and then we need to have at least a vision, like a long-term vision of what the solution is going to be, kind of to align more of these things. I don't know. This is like a very high-level conversation, but
yeah,
it needs its forum, because most people. So and you probably understand this. Like the way Silicon Valley is structured right now, the most noise comes from incoming startups. They have budgets for PR. They are putting ideas out there, and there is no opposing force. There is no like the philosophy of software. You're not going to find someone thinking about whether it's actually good in the long run. You just have this race towards going after an opportunity that becomes clear, and you have busy money pouring in, and so we have these cycles, fashion cycles. But every now and then, I think it's worth trying to take a step back. I don't know whose role it is. I am not that powerful of a communicator to do it, but I just want to point out that I think we're at one of those points where it would be good for everyone to have a way to say, yeah, you know what, you're right. I can't handle all this complexity. Something needs to change. We shouldn't spend time even evaluating the next build tool. There's something else going on, because that's not going to solve the problem either, right? Instead of going from one to the other.
So there's a famous essay called "The Cathedral versus the Bazaar," right? And I think this is a outcome of you want to build a cathedral, and the status quo is a bazaar. And the problem comes when I like 90% of your cathedral, but then I don't like 10% of it.
Right.
What happens?
Then you have to break it down. So if you're talking about my product now, no, it's very modular. So I mean, we're still designing it, but the things that we're going to launch now, the thing I cannot tell you, I really can't right now, because the space is very heat up. And some of the ideas that we have are pretty creative. Like they are. I mean, you already saw that little playground there, right? You weren't expecting.
Yeah, that's cool.
There are a whole bunch of things like that. That when people see them the first time, they're like, "I didn't know you could do this." Right? Like that, there's no CLI. You don't need it. It's just code, and then it's a whole bunch of weird things going on. so I don't want to like.
Okay, you know what? I'll think about it. I think I really appreciate that you're so passionate about this, and you already talked to everybody in the space. And I also spoke to Ola, and he's just an amazing speaker as well.
Yeah,
and so yeah, it'd be great to get together and talk about this stuff, and maybe some other market participants that we don't even know. Whenever we organize events like this, like someone comes out of from nowhere who's like already thought about this for 10 years, and maybe that might give some really good insight. The reason I asked you about prior art is because it really helps to have a playbook of how does this happen in other language ecosystems, right? That at least you can model it after, because otherwise you're kind of creating your own thing, and it's a lot of guessing and trial and error, and we try to do better than that by learning from history. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I dropped the original idea of a completely new programming language. At the time, Dart was
yeah,
a lot of noise.
I mean, I liked it, but yeah, I was never going to use it in anything real.
It's not going to work. I mean, you have so many problems, right? The ecosystem problem, the adoption, and
should we invite Paul? Should we?
Dude, that would be awesome. Or Unison too. Like we could also have a talk. There's some people that are creating amazing, like Unison. I love
web, yeah.
Content addressable code. It's just solves so many problems right off the bat. And then you have so this is another space that I'm very passionate about. It's small abstraction changes, small innovations at the very lowest level that eliminate complete industries. And Temporal is one of those. Well, I remember the first time I heard about Temporal, my brother was working at Uber, and he's like, "We have a loop and we can sleep for a week." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's crazy. That's amazing." Whoever came up with that, whoever realized that would eliminate the need for workflow engines. Because what is a workflow engine other than a very convoluted programming model to get around the problem of persistence and keeping like this identity and some state associated with workflow? But you have a thread.
Timers, yeah.
A thread is the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, bam, that's one of those. Then you have with Rust, like what they did with move semantics, so that you can compile away,
The borrow
memory.
checking. Yeah.
That's a huge, garbage collection has been a major concern in programming language design. Most developers don't remember that, but it is an invention. It is something that somebody had to come up with, and it leads to all sorts of problems. So for someone to, I mean, this research is not that new, but putting it together at Mozilla, pushing it to the mainstream and all that, it's amazing. So those things are like Temporal, what Rust did, and then you have Unison, and they're running with the idea of content addressability. Those are frontiers that I'm so excited about. We have some of that. We have taken some of these ideas. And with this, I'm going to finish everything. So I have been told multiple times, I'm a very dense person in general. Like I'm a very kind of leaning towards the academia and like deep research. So my main weakness is usually communication when it comes to empathizing with, a developer that's just trying to get something done over the weekend, and he doesn't give a shit about me and my theories, or he's like, just tell me what works. So the last 2 years working with Tom Preston-Werner, working with Matt, closely to Matt and other people, I've learned to empathize better and to communicate. And the Lambdragon, the little mascot, and all the communication, it's been a way to kind of compensate, to jump to the other extreme, and it's really helping, man. It's funny. Like the moment I created the little guy, everybody was like, I get it, I like it. It's almost like they emotionally liked it first, and then they were open to listening to it. So yeah, and all of these big innovations that are happening, we need to channel them somehow into the mainstream. And the main driver, the reason I get up in the morning, well, here because I want to go swim, but
surfing, yeah,
dude, look at this.
It's amazing. Oh my god,
one of the best beaches to go surf, and I can just walk down the stairs and be in the ocean.
Oh my god, that's amazing. So jealous.
So what I want to say is to think about this. If I succeed with what I'm doing, if we succeed in our company, we are going to save people half of their time at work, and not just 3 or 4. I'm talking 80% of developers are coming in, right? Because of the technologies that we're picking, they're becoming extremely popular. I mean, what if there's any goal worth doing? It's that one. And these people, they trust us to give them the abstractions that are simplified to a point where they don't have to make these choices. And it's hard work. Simplifying things is super hard, because if you want to remove something, you need to know everything about that thing, everything related to that, because you need to see the consequences. So very few people have the time to actually study it and then do it and then hand it over to the users. And the users implicitly are going to trust you. So anyway, that's like the bigger context. We're all there. You at Temporal, you guys are doing exactly the same thing. But I think it's a beautiful thing, right? Then they have more time to watch Netflix.
Too much Netflix.
Whatever people are doing. Anyway,
yeah, cool. Okay, well, let me know when you want to organize this thing. I definitely help to publicize, and I'll be there, and I'm happy to present whatever I can find. Yeah, Ola actually just reached out to me today to try to settle some naming things. So I think after he talked to you, he reached out to me. So I think we should just all get in a room and just
exactly. Let's just casually. We can, man. It's gonna be funny. We're just gonna be trying. I already got a notion of where this is going, because I've been trying it with other people, and I think there is something to be said here. I mean, I know that I just told you need time to think about it, but there is clearly an opportunity, and there are people like me and others that we want it. We want to find something, like the Jamstack or something like that. Yeah, it will help cut through the noise. It has to be something. It's not even an architecture. It could be like, it's assisted programming. It's as you say, self-provisioning, it's like self-driving, right? Maybe you arrive at that, like something happens on its own, but it's about technology alleviating a whole set of concerns from you, right? So you can talk about it from the user's point of view. You can also talk about it from the technology point of view. Like the Jamstack, it doesn't tell you about the benefits. It just says JavaScript API and markup, but it's catchy, right? And then you're like, what is the Jamstack? And then you read a few paragraphs and you're like, okay, it's gonna give me this, right? But they also figured out that people sometimes they just go for the moniker, and then they they land in the benefits. Right? Anyway, it's a crazy world. I think Matt Billman is really good at this because he has his background is more on the humanities side. It's very
Music.
strong.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Music journalist, which I think it's amazing. I mean, I love Matt. He's one of my best friends, and he has this view of developers that is very different from what most technologists think about. We, as a technologist, I see developers as logical people, very logical. But in reality, most of the trends and most of the things that drive us are far from that. They're about sense of belonging, community, symbols, and folklore. So yeah.
Mascots.
Okay. You need to cut me off so I can talk for hours.
Okay, no worries. Hey, great to meet you, and yeah, let's organize something. I'll talk to Ola about setting a date.
Okay, man, awesome.
Okay.
Bye bye everyone from Hawaii.